And what might we have missed in the last week's show? Well, certainly we didn't miss all the big headlines coming out of last week's PlayStation State of Play. First up, Resident Evil 4. So the official revealing of the worst kept secret in gaming. Coming 24th of March 2023 on PC, PS5, Xbox Series X. I am super excited about this. How did you guys feel when this came up?
You want to go first, Winnie?
Oh, look, I was just glad that they finally announced it. You know, I know that they had to let the room, the air breathe or whatever from the Resident Evil 3 remake. You know, that game is still fairly new in the scope of things, but everyone knew this game was happening. They did, obviously they showed some footage. It was age restricted, so I didn't put it as a B-roll, unfortunately, but it was...
Yeah.
I know that they haven't showed like a good long piece of gameplay or anything, but I don't know, something about the style just feels it's so much more grimdark.
Yeah, it looks really different. Really different.
I don't know how I feel about that because the original Resident Evil 4 is very cheesy in many elements. It's scary, but it's also very corny as well. And that's why a lot of people love, especially when you get in the latter half of that game. But look, I'm sure it will play really well, and I think that's what people really want because God knows you can play the normal Resident Evil 4 on any platform at this point. So.
Well, I still haven't played Resident Evil 4, and I want to play it, but now I'm like so uncertain what I should do. I feel like, should I try to play it on the Oculus? Because that's that Resident Evil 4... That's like Resident Evil 4 remade just for Oculus, but it's the original game. Like with a few censorship things that they did and not much else in terms of change-wise, but I don't know.
Interesting. I clocked it ages ago on GameCube, actually. I bought a GameCube.
We need a clock tally at this point.
Just to...
that's the word of the
It's been said
podcast.
like 5 times.
That's the word of the podcast. I like it.
Well, if I clock the games, I clock the games.
See, he's a clocker.
I'm not always a clocker. There's a ton of games that I
likes
start
to
and
clock.
never finish.
He likes to clock. What can he
Good games
say?
like Resident Evil 4, I clocked it, baby. I clocked it. I like
He
the
likes to
clocking.
clock. He likes to get around
What
town
are you
and
gonna do
clock.
about it?
Clocking this game, clocking
If a
that
man
game.
likes to clock, a man's got a clock. You know what are you gonna do about it?
When the man's got a clock, he's got a clock straight
He's
away.
got a clock. There ain't no stopping a man from clocking. So, I'm a fan of the Resident Evil games. I've played every single Resident Evil game since the original Resident Evil.
Really? 5 and 6? Did you clock them?
Yep. I didn't clock them, but I have played them. Oh, no, sorry. I clocked 5. Didn't clock 6, but I clocked 5.
Yeah.
Absolutely did. So Resident Evil 4 is one of my favorites still. Although I started playing it again on Switch.
Resident Evil
because it
4
was
is your
on special.
favorite.
No, it's amongst my favorite.
Oh, okay.
It's one of my favorite ones. But I have to admit that by today's standards, and because I personally love where the series has gone, I love, for example, where it's gone into the first-person perspective now. I love that format. I think it works really, really well. But from an evolutionary perspective, it feels a little clunky now playing Resident Evil 4. And if you played it on the way it plays on Switch or the way it plays on the original control schemes, it's a little clunky, and it's part of the way the game handles. And I know you get into it and it's perfectly fine, but I've been spoiled with more recent series that just feel a little bit more fluid. But in any case, I'm actually kind of looking forward to this. I don't think I'll buy day one because, again, I've played the original. I clocked the original. That I don't know if it's worth, spending the big bucks to do it again if it's basically the same game, just new graphics and shit. But in saying all that, if you look at a game, and I keep thinking about this, if you look at a game like Demon Souls, that was a remake. I played the original. I clocked the original. It's the same freaking game. It even uses the same physics and everything. Yet, whatever, man. It's an awesome game. It's so worth playing through it again. And I don't regret spending full bucks on that game because it's a fantastic game. So we'll see. We'll see when this comes out. The thing that I find with the Resident Evil games is they tend to drop in price relatively quickly. And a lot of the Resident Evil games now... So, for example, the Resident Evil 2 remake and Resident Evil 3 remake, you can get them very often for 20-something bucks. So probably not worth getting it at launch unless you're desperate to play this game. It's going to go down in price just like every single other game in the series.
What an exciting take, Mike.
There you go. I am kind of excited about this. I love Resident Evil games.
I can't wait to buy for 20 bucks.
Yeah, true to his budget form.
No, look, I'm looking forward to it. I think I will try to get the Oculus one first and play through that And then, as you said, Mike, it will go down in price, Resident Evil 4 for sure.
It will,
I probably want to play Resident Evil 2 Remake before it anyway, for whatever reason.
That's really good. I haven't finished that yet. I actually want to get back into it. It's a really good game.
And in a bumper pack state of play, they also announced, well, not announced, but had more information about Street Fighter 6, which was pretty cool. And a whole host of news came out post the announcements as well. So it had gameplay in the state of play. Also, they've got like a whole new range of features like the drive gauge. And the one that really interests me is you can use classic controls, but there's also a new simple control option.
Yay!
Which,
for idiots
but
like me.
weirdly enough, means that you can't do all the moves that the character is able to do using the simple controls. But it's a bit more like, I think it's very clumsy, but a little bit more like Smash Brothers is what people are calling it. There's like literally a button to do a Hadouken for Ryu, so it's going to be kind of interesting. It is going to be cross-play as well as they've already confirmed that just like with Street Fighter 5, it's got rollback netcode, which, pretty poor netcode on Street Fighter 5. I'm very hopeful it's going to be improved for Street Fighter 6. Most of the roster seems to have already leaked. I haven't seen that. Have you actually seen what the leak is, Swinny?
Yeah.
Okay.
And,
Can't control yourself.
No, look, it was everywhere, and
I haven't seen
also you're not like me. You're not compulsive checking the news and
Correct.
gaming every single like hour or something. But
No, but it's not on mainstream news. They haven't gone, here's the roster on the mainstream
when
news.
when you have all YouTube recommended channels pop up like the screenshots in the thumbnail, like it's hard to avoid it for if you're watching that stuff. But so they all pretty much all leaked, although we don't know 100% if it's all of it. But we also had Guile announced at the Summer Game Fest as well. So since the State of Play announcement, they've also shown that off. But I'm super pumped for this. Obviously, they skipped at the time. I didn't have a PlayStation 4, so I didn't have access to play Street Fighter 5. But I did quite enjoy Street Fighter 4, so I'm really looking forward to this. I think it looks fantastic. With the simple control option, I think that's a fantastic way to get new players into the game and just have fun. I remember playing a lot of Capcom versus SNK 2 on GameCube. Joe Jives, spent a lot of time playing that with him as well, and they had a similar thing where you could do a lot of the supers with the C-stick. So that it basically evolved into almost like a Smash Brothers style with that game as well. And there's been some other fighting games that have tried it as well. So I think it's the way to do it, to get people in and basically say, okay, if you want to get more advanced and you want to have access to all your light, medium, heavy options, you got to jump to the standard or classic control scheme. But yeah, I think this looks fantastic, and when I saw them show this, because all we saw before was just like a little teaser.
Yeah.
With Ryu and Luke.
And it was really cinematic as well, the way that they...
Yeah, that's all it was. And it was like a bombshell. This State of Play, just these two alone would have made it massive, and they had more to show. So yeah.
It was so much better than the Summer Game Fest opening the State of Play.
This is one of the best presentations I've probably seen. Yeah, that's how good it was.
Yeah, I think this is one of the best State of Plays from Sony ever, in my view. I was shocked that people didn't laud this State of Play even more. And it's interesting as well because, we'll talk about it soon, but there were some announcements in Summer Games Fest. It felt like they could have pushed it into this State of Play and made it absolutely banger. But the game's coming out next year, 2023, PC, PS4, PS5 and Xbox Series X. Interesting that they skipped Xbox One. I wonder if there's some kind of weird agreement, exclusivity that they've signed Capcom with Sony, so that they were restricting it from Xbox One or something. But it's gonna be cool. I think there's definitely a game that we could end up picking up, Swinny, and playing against each other. I'm gonna just hold off because Street Fighter 5 launched so poorly, and Capcom can be pretty bad at that stuff. So,
one thing we didn't mention, this seems like it's got a pretty crazy single player mode as well.
We didn't talk about that. World Tour, that's right.
Yeah, has
that'd be really
your
cool,
character running around in a third person environment. Really interesting stuff.
It's like a Yakuza.
It looks crazy. I was like, that's the bit that when I was watching the trailer live or on replay without knowing anything about it, I was like, what the fuck is this part of? Is this Street Fighter still? What am I watching? It's very unusual. I'm going to be really keen to check that out. And Swinny, you would have been happy about this next one?
Yeah, so we got the next massive trailer and a release window for Final Fantasy 16. So this is, people have been wanting an update on this for so long, and I think people were so disappointed when we didn't get an update much from Square Enix at all in the last 12 months. And I know that the game did see a bit of internal delay. But basically, this new trailer, it showed off a lot of gameplay, showed off some of the UI, whether or not it's final or not, we don't know, as well as a lot of characters and the icons, which are like the summons and a lot of the characters that basically are connected to them and everything like that. But there's been a lot of discussion around the combat. So far what they've shown is very much looks like it's a single character game. We don't know 100% if that's the case, but all signs are pointing to that. It's also, a lot of people are kind of saying the combat looks a lot closer than ever to something like Devil May Cry. It doesn't look like anything like Final Fantasy VII Remake. It looks more like an evolution of Final Fantasy 15 than anything else, which makes sense, obviously, the next entry. But the combat director of this game is actually worked on the combat systems for Devil May Cry and Dragon's Dogma and Monster Hunter World, and spent a lot of time in Capcom working on fighting games as well. So, I mean, they've got the right kind of person if they're going to do this. A lot of people obviously not a big fan of the action direction that Final Fantasy is going, but it is what it is. Like, you can, I would love another turn-based game, but if this is the direction they're going, they've got the right person to do it. So,
Well, I thought this was going to be a bit more like a traditional Final Fantasy, but maybe that was just the setting.
no, I mean, yeah, the setting in the first trailer they ever showed, it was clear that it was very much an action RPG.
Yeah.
So,
It looked very actiony, yeah. Which, I mean, one of my favorite games of all time is still Final Fantasy VII. That is turn-based, but this has a single protagonist. And you guys know me, I prefer games with a single protagonist. So, actually looking forward to this one.
it's one of your defining features.
It's weird. It is. I don't know why. That's why Dragon Age and stuff, I could never really get into it properly. But yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, fair enough. And the other
about-
big discussion in the State of Play was around PSVR 2. So we saw Horizon Call of the Wild. So that looks, I don't know, like, can we just talk about this game a little bit? It just doesn't look fun to me. It looks like one of those VR games that people go, oh, wow, look at that. Oh, wow,
Tech
look
demo.
at this. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, just showing off the kind of quote-unquote promise of VR, but it doesn't look compelling at all to me. Like, Mike, you are the biggest fan of VR on the podcast. Play many hours on VR on all your sets that you have.
Sure, yeah. Look, yeah, it doesn't really compel me either. I'm not. It's not that I'm not into VR anymore. It's just that after Alex, which I still haven't finished, I don't know. I'm gonna reserve my judgment till it actually comes out and you can see what kind of gameplay it has, how it feels. At the moment, I don't know. Like, for example, if you look at a game like Skyrim in VR, I actually thought that was solid. It was great. It was actually a bit hard to keep playing it just because it's so immersive and it's taxing, if that makes sense. But what was awesome about that game was basically the actual Skyrim experience in VR. So you were free to move around, do things, whereas a lot of these VR games feel a little bit like they're on rails. Like you're kind of just playing what the path you're supposed to take and you're just interacting with the environment in that sense. But I don't know, I'm reserving my judgment. It could end up being really cool.
How are you?
It looks good.
I think this looks awesome. Now, I say that as someone that has had zero experience with VR, but I think I'm the kind of person that this game needs to draw in. And in terms of it feeling like an on-rails tech demo of sorts, the PSVR 2 still needs that. Now, we know the first PlayStation VR did sell a lot, but there's still... VR's not where it needs to be in terms of being like a mainstream thing just yet. And I think this is the kind of game you do still need, unfortunately, to kind of draw people in, where, especially when you're dealing with a lot of games that have free movement options that can be a bit tough for new people and cause motion sickness and things. I still think you need these. If it is an on-rails game, you still need those things. But I understand where you're coming from. But I think it looks cool. So
It's interesting because like Oculus Quest 2 is by far the most successful headset ever, right? By a country mile. They've just announced it's like, it's sold well over 10 million units so far. But then at the same time, in that period of time, the PlayStation 5 sold like double, and that's completely supply constrained, right? PSVR, I think, is about 5 million, they say. It's never officially, I think, had numbers for a long period of time, but ballpark maybe 5, and then pretty much every other headset is combined maybe around 5. So it's true. It's like VR is just absolutely not mainstream. And, you know, going back to Half-Life Alyx, if that's on PSVR 2, I'll probably just buy it again. But, you know, like, and it's so funny you said that, Mike, because I was thinking about Half-Life Alyx a lot recently. And, like, I feel like if I play that, it would retrospectively be the game of the year for me in that year. But it's almost too intense. Like, I remember playing it the final session I played it for like an hour and a half straight. And when I got out, like, I got out of the game, right? Because I felt like I was in the game. I was like sweating and everything.
It's super intense.
I was like, oh my God. It's like I've been teleported, man. But I don't know if I really want that, honestly. Like, it sounds insane, but it's seriously insane, the game. And it's such a well-made game and super intense and super immersive. But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know if I need that in my life. It's too real. There's too much shit going on.
Too much intensity as is, yeah.
But having said that, like a game that I think was always crazy with PSVR 1 was Resident Evil 7. And it seems like Capcom are doing the same thing again. PSVR 2 seems it's going to have a full... Like, is this 100% confirmed? Because it wasn't really super clear to me. It's going to be like full PSVR 2 Resident Evil Village, yeah?
Well, they said that.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Okay,
like,
yeah.
I'm sure maybe they might make changes, but... And this is, like, we were talking about this a while back. I don't know if it was a special PSVR 2 segment, but I was basically saying they need to do this.
Yeah.
And so I'm so happy they did, and I will never play it, but I'm just saying...
You'll play it. If we get 1,000 subscribers, you'll play it.
But no, but I'm saying, like, this is what they need to do to drag people in. Half-Life Alyx would obviously be amazing, but I know that Resident Evil 7 was one of the big draws.
Fantastic.
Of the first
I almost
PSVR.
regret playing it on PC now. Because it's
Half-Life Alyx?
Well, no, with Village. I regret playing Village on it because it's the same as Resident Evil 7. I played it, clocked it, and then when they released the VR version, I'm like, do I really want to play through all that again?
Yeah, do you want to clock it again?
Kind of do actually want to play through all that again now. I just can't be bothered setting on my PSVR because it's
too many cables.
We've spoken about this before. That's the biggest drawback. But Resident Evil Village would be sick in VR. So many cool bits in it.
PSVR 2, I'm super keen. Like, I did think it was going to come out this year, but it's obvious that it's not. But it does sound like it will be probably at the latest, maybe halfway through next year, you reckon? Just the way that things are shaping up?
Yeah, I mean, I could see them doing like a March, April, but...
That's my gut feel, that it'd be like a March, April, but it couldn't be much longer than June-ish, I would say.
No, spoken about it for far too long.
Yeah. But I think it's all going to be about the price point. Like in Australia, a PS5 is 750 Australian dollar dues, right? The PSVR 2, I don't think it can be much more than $499, man, honestly.
I don't think it will be.
Because the Quest.
Yeah. But then
the Quest has ruined everything. It's so cheap.
Ruined absolutely everything.
But
they said it was going to be cheap, didn't they? Sorry, that's funny.
I was to say, but the average person walking into EB Games, I don't think they're probably comparing price to Quest 2. I know what you're saying, but I think that they will see the price on the shelf. So I don't know
this is
if
the
that's
experience.
is that like, obviously for us, that is something we consider, but I don't know for the average person.
I just don't think it will move units if it's like $749. Like,
Probably
because that
not.
was like a
It's too high,
PSVR, right?
yeah.
PSVR was the same price as the PS4. It was like,
I don't
yeah,
know,
it
'cause
was.
It was
Yeah.
always what, $399 or something.
Nah, it was like 400 and something in
memory.
Australia. It was super expensive. It was
Shit,
crazy.
I can't remember now.
Yeah.
I bought it for cheap because it always went on special, but
Of course you did, Mike.
but
yeah,
honestly, it wasn't worth it because I don't use it enough now.
But Mike, if it released and it was like 600, would you get it? PSVR 2?
Of course you would get it.
Really? Shit.
This is
I don't
Mike.
know if
You
I would.
just
No, I don't know if I would. I don't know if I would.
Hey, hold off
I
playing
honestly
Resident
don't know
Evil
if I
4
would.
for a few years.
I just didn't have.
Go buy a PlayStation.
Can
Well-
we please just remember this thing you said now? Because he'll pick that up. The
Yeah,
first
probably
bloody
look up.
week it
We'll
comes.
see. No, it's just that I was really keen on the Oculus, regardless
Oculus
of the
is
Facebook
awesome.
thing. It was a fantastic device for the price.
hate the
problem
Facebook thing.
is, Maybe it's a glass thing. I don't know what it is. It had really, really bad God rays for me, and I looked into it, and there were different versions of the lenses and stuff like that people spoke about. I just couldn't fix that. I couldn't fix that one issue, and I remember the original one never had that. It had other drawbacks, but it just never had that problem, and I enjoyed using it more. So it's things like that where I go, I'd love to, but then I know I'm going to spend $600 and then be annoyed at the fact that I can't use it properly or something.
Or that it's got a
'cause
cable.
my eyes are stupid. And
I feel like the cable is going to be massive for the PSVR 2. Like, it's going to be a make or break thing, that cable.
That was honestly the breaking thing for me for the original PSVR. Too many bloody cables. That's why Oculus was awesome. At least just one cable done.
It's one cable, though, to be fair. It's one cable that goes straight to the front, you'd imagine.
Yeah.
But even though it's one cable, it's
one.
like, the new one.
But the original was a pain, and
Yeah,
it's still
there's way
is to
too
this
much
day.
to
And
it.
I just can't be bothered setting it up because it's just too many things that I have to remember. I got to plug this into this and this into this, and you just give up.
And how about you, Swinny? Would you pick up the PSVR 2? You haven't got any VR gear.
If I'm ever going to pick up VR thing, then I'll probably pick PSVR 2 would be the one. But I'll wait to see on what kind of games become available. It wouldn't be something I'll pick up right away. So.
Okay. And price? Any sensitivity there? You're sort of like, if it was $749, it wouldn't be too
He's
crazy.
rich, he doesn't care.
Oh, I don't know. It's see how I feel at the time, honestly.
Okay, interesting. Well, I don't know why I'm the most price sensitive with this thing. I just think
Yeah, no, you're the richest out of all of us by far, and you're the most price. That's why you're
not
rich.
true. That's not
That's
true.
why you're rich, because you're
No, but
stingy.
I just think if it's the Oculus Quest, it's got a battery in
That's
it.
the kind of thing you bring up on a fucking podcast.
I just think it's not true. But if you got the Oculus, right, it's got a CPU on it, it's got a battery, it's got like way more tech and gear in it. Like, I just don't know how they'd be able to justify it. This thing doesn't need a battery or anything. I don't know if it has a battery. I don't know why it would, but because it's got a cable running to it. So
It's Sony. They can just.
So-
But yeah, well,
PlayStation.
true,
maybe
it's true.
maybe because they can try to stream to it instead of for certain things, or I don't know.
no, it's got the cable. There's no streaming or anything. So yeah, look, I'm
on-
going to be super interested. If it's cheap, actually, that would be super interesting.
Then I would probably.
If it was like $399 or $349,
Oh, yeah.
damn, that would be crazy. If it undercut the Oculus Quest, that would be sick. I'd be super keen for that. So other things that were in the Prezzo, the Callisto Protocol. Mike, you'd be happy about that? We talked about that a little bit
Hell
earlier.
to the that looks really, really good. Finally saw some proper gameplay, and it looks damn awesome. I love because obviously it's made by the same. Well, the main. Is he producer on it now? Director? What is he on this one?
It's the head dude behind it.
The head
yeah,
dude
whatever.
behind the Callisto
Clayton
Protocol.
Schofield.
Same head
Schofield
dude that
or
was
whatever, yeah.
Yeah, Glenn Schofield.
that dude. Same dude that was behind Dead Space, which was a fantastic game.
And a
you
whole bunch of
kinda
other
see-
stuff, by the way. Like
Yeah, of
lots
course,
of
but
Call of Duty games and everything.
to make the direct comparison with the Callisto Protocol, I'll refer to Dead Space. It was. You can still see some of the elements in this.
Boom!
Because you've got well, one cool thing about Dead Space to those that haven't played it is a lot of the interface is actually in the game, so you don't have a health bar per se.
What's the
Is
word
that
that you like?
diegetic interface?
Diegetic interface. Yeah,
Let's say it all.
did cover this.
Diegetic interface, kids.
With the ball moving.
Come on, kids.
Exactly.
And that diegetic interface, my god, I totally forgot that term now, even though I covered it. Is
Made
it's
it up.
freaking awesome. It's so much cooler for immersion, and you can see them applying the same principles in the Callisto Protocol, and I think it's going to be sick. So
Man, they must be like when they announced the Dead Space remake. They must be like, God damn it!
I know.
Stealing
What?
at lunch.
I think it's a good thing. I think it gets more like
Yeah, fair
I get
enough.
it.
because
both. I don't give a
I
shit.
think people talk about Dead Space remake and then we'll bring up the Callisto Protocol.
Yeah.
I think it's good that they're coming out first because people maybe who played Dead Space remake will go.
Are they coming out first? I can't remember when.
Well, Callisto Protocol's coming
I
out
hope
this year.
so. I hope
Is it?
so.
December,
it
I
makes
believe.
much more sense to come out first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, and I like I said at the start, I think it's like 1 month apart as far as it's scheduled right now.
Okay.
Dead Space remake. I'm just checking it quickly.
We also had the
Yeah,
announcement-
December 22 for Callisto Protocol.
Okay.
Cool. And we also had the announcement of the Spider-Man games coming to PC, which is crazy.
Well, I thought, this really blew me away, man. It's like, I knew that like Sony's pushing into PC. That's obvious from their financials, but they're taking like the biggest franchises, God of War and Spider-Man. Spider-Man has sold like insane numbers. So Spider-Man Remastered
Rise of
and
Spider-
Spider-Man Miles Morales are both coming to PC.
Is there nothing they're not going
Insane.
to hold back on?
I like it,
Old,
man. I think it's
Jack
cool.
Ryan.
Yeah, same. Why not?
What did you say,
what?
Sweeney? I missed it.
It's a good old Jack Ryan.
Jack Ryan, yeah, big old Jack.
We talked
Big
about
old pumpkin head.
I can't remember. Yeah,
Did.
it was last episode, but it was 2 weeks ago. Yeah, obviously their approach to all that is ramping up very fast, which we'll talk about in the next segment as well. So
And you know, like my crazy idea about like the Steam Deck, working with Sony, all that stuff, it's almost not officially aligned or anything, but it's coming to some kind of
it
fruition.
works. Yeah.
Because people are like buying these games again to play it on Steam Deck. Like people are buying God of War full freight again, even though you can buy for like $10 on PS5. But they're buying the full version on PC just so they can play it on the Steam Deck. So
Why not?
a lot of that money's going back to Sony. And the last thing I just want to mention is Stray is coming out day one on PS Plus second tier and above.
Oh, second tier and above. Dang
so they
it.
already started doing this bullshit.
I want to play as a cat.
But like
my cat.
that's coming out really soon, right? Stray?
well, it was delayed, so the game was not. It was close to finished anyway, I think. So
Yeah, but I think it's coming out in July or something.
yeah.
From memory.
Cool.
Just 19th of July.
Yeah.
So barely, because in Australia, we're not getting the PS Plus upgrade until late June from memory. We're like the last region. So yeah, anyway. So if you're on the second tier or
Do I
above, you'll
wait?
get that free as part of that subscription on day one.
Awesome.
All right, let's go to our first bit of news from Key 3 announcements.